The assessment proceeding will start, as rightly said, after the audit annual returns have been filed. And you have seen the glimpse of it in the form of recovery of the interest on the gross amount. They have estimated around 42,000 crore rupees is to be recovered by them by way of interest, and they are going left, right, and center to recover that without following any procedure. It's really going to be very challenging, which I'll explain in the later part of my speech, that the adjudication proceeding and the section 73 and 74, which will be the main part of discussion by the Ashit also, how they will implement. And because up till now we have seen there are various practices are there in the income tax, in the sales tax, in excise and service tax, how all this will get coordinated and finally will be applied. We'll have to really wait and see, and how much havoc it will be created, which I'll explain once the Ashit finishes off in this thing. With this brief remark, I'm sure all participants will definitely benefit. And my request to all participants is that many of us practice only in filing of return. Please take the advantage of this webinar to prepare yourself for practicing in the show cause notice, reply, appearing, etc., so that you can also appear before the authority, because authorities always take a very totally different view, which is not in line with the law. And you can very well counter their views once you are well versed with the law at all. Now, with this remark, I request Ashit Shah to start with it, and then let's see finally on this. Over to Dilip Bhai.
Thank you, Gupta Sahib. Now, I will request our speaker, Sri C.A. Ashit Shah, to give his speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Shubh Prabhatam to all of you. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Shubh Prabhatam to all of you. Friends, it is really indeed my pleasure today, being a faculty over here, to discuss and throw some insight about the today's topic, which is known as assessment, demand, recovery. Before coming to the subject proper, let me first thank the organizers of both the association, AIFTP as well as GSTPM, for giving me this good opportunity, and of course to my chairman Gupta ji for chairing the session. Friends, today is the unique day. Let me tell you what is the uniqueness of today. Today is the first day of the month, 1st June 2020. Today is also the first working day of the month week. Today is the first day of unlocking 1.0, because from today many parts would be released, and today is the first day when the Bombay has received the glimpses of rains after having a very hot weather which all of us were experiencing. And lastly, today is the first lecture in respect of the procedures relating to after the post supply of goods. We have seen that in this 11th series, 9 lectures are relating to either a pre-supply thing, rather what is taxable, what is supply, what is place of supply, what is time of supply, input tax credit, and all that thing. But what would be the after post supply? After post supply, assessment would be there, demands would be there, recovery would be there, and then search and seizures would be taking place. So today is the first session in respect of a lecture wherein the post supply transaction would be discussed over today. Coming to the subject proper of assessment, demand, and recovery. Now, friends, assessment has been defined under section 2, subsection 11. Before that, let me just clarify that we have decided, me and my chairman, that I will first of all explain to you, before all of you, the basic provisions of all this assessment, demands, and recovery, and the critical aspects or a legality that would be discussed by my chairman, Mr. S.S. Gupta, so that we can have the views of both of us before all of you. Now, assessment. What do you mean by the assessment? Assessment means determining the tax liability under this act, that is the GST Act, and includes self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, summary assessment, and best judgment assessment. So that means these are the kinds of assessment which is there at present described under the Act. Now, when we say assessment, that means assessment could be of a registered person as well as unregistered person. Now, when the person is registered, he would have filed the return or he may not have filed the return. And then how the registration will take, how the assessment will take place, that will say. And in respect of other circumstances, whether he has filed the return or not filed the return, how the assessment will take place. Now, suppose let us take an example that registered person is there and he has filed the return. Then how the assessment takes place? Then the law says that we have introduced the concept of self-assessment, and hence the assessment would be taken place by way of a scrutiny of the return, and that has been taken care by section 61 of the CGST Act. That means if a person has filed his return, then his assessment will be taken place if the proper officer feels that there is something which is there because there is a short payment of tax or the transaction has not been properly reflected, then under the scrutiny of return, the demand will be created. It may so appear that that registered person, though he is required to file the return under section 39 and other provision, but he has not filed the return. Then in that respect, if he has not filed the return, then then the courses which is available before the authority is to do the best judgment assessment, and that is provided under section 62. Now, if the person is registered, he has filed the return also, but due to some other reasons, he would like to go for a provisional assessment or a summary assessment, then section 60 and 64 is there before the proper officer. Now this is as far as the registered person is concerned. Now, suppose the person is not registered, that means he is an unregistered person. He may not have been registered because he may be feeling that he has not achieved the turnover, or after cancelling the registration number, he is still liable to be registered. Then under that circumstances, the proper officer may ask them to do the assessment under a best judgment assessment, and that section 63 will takes care of the things. So all these kinds of assessment, now we will see one by one that how it will take place. As I have told you that in the GST area, the concept of self-assessment has been introduced, and now of late in every law, the concept of self-assessment is there. So what do you mean by self-assessment? Self-assessment means the taxpayer by himself has to assess what is and compute what is his tax liability, what are the benefit or notification or exemption which is applicable to him, what is the input tax credit available to him, and then after taking the benefit of that, he will discharge his tax liability for each tax period. Now the thing is, what do you mean by that? The tax period. Tax period has been defined, and it means the return or the period for which the return has to be filed. Now under GST law, the taxpayers are classified into two parts, monthly and quarterly. So that is known as a tax period. Now it says that every registered person has to self-assess the tax and file the return as specified in section 39. So now let's see under section 39 which kind of assessees have to file the return. So under section 39, they have envisaged 5 types or categories of taxpayers which they have to file the return. First category is person discharging tax liability under section 9. That means a normal taxpayer. He has to file form number GSTR 3 or 3B. Person who, that is the first thing. Second, person discharging tax liability under section 10. That means the person who has opted to discharge the tax liability under composition scheme, he has to file GSTR 4. Person who is required to deduct tax under section 51, that is TDS provision, he has to require to file GSTR 7. Input service distributor, he has to file GSTR 6, and non-resident taxable person GSTR 5. That means all the returns which are there specified under section 37 are based on the self-assessment made by the taxpayers. So they have to correctly compute the tax liability and file the return. Now after filing the return, if the assessing proper officer feels that yes, now I wanted to scrutinize the return because that's now they cannot offlet it. So the power has been obtained under section 61 by the proper officer to scrutinize the return and related particulars furnished by the registered person to verify the correctness of the return. That means now the proper officer will verify whether the tax liability has been correctly computed. That means he has discharged the tax liability at the correct rate of tax. He has discharged the tax liability by availing the proper credit, and then determine whether all the tax has been paid correctly or not. Now, during the scrutiny, if any discrepancy is noticed, then what the proper officer will do? He will issue a notice under form GST AMT 10, informing up to the taxpayer this is the discrepancy, and now you have to revert back to the revert to me that whether this discrepancy is correct or not. Now, friends, you must be observing this long name of the form GST ASMT 10. Now, under the GST law, they have describe the form on the basis of the activity. Like say, for example, this form says ASMT. ASMT means assessment, relating to assessment. This form is there. So short form is ASMT. If you wanted to do registration, it says GST REG. If any return is filed, it says GST RET and 1234. This is how the form has been prescribed under the GST law. So it becomes very much easy to recollect that this is the activity for which this form has been prescribed. Now, after issuing a discrepancy notice, PO will provide the taxpayers an opportunity to give the explanation to him. Within 30 days, he has to revert him, and he may also enhance the time limit of 30 days. If the taxpayers feel so, then he has to make an application that I can provide you the information after so many days. Now, registered person has two options. What are the two options? First option, he accepts the discrepancy after going through, after the notice which has been served to him by the proper officer. He feels that yes, the discrepancy which has been pointed out by the proper officer is correct. So now what he has to do? Nothing. He has to discharge the tax liability plus interest plus any other sum which has been paid. Now, we have to make it understand that no penalty would be levied over here. While doing the scrutiny, if the taxpayer pays the tax along with interest or any other due, then no penalty would be levied. Then how we will inform to the assessing officer? Now you know that everything is now on the portal base. Electronically, everything has to be, notice has to be issued, and also the reply has to be filed. So registered taxpayer has to intimate the proper officer in form number GST ASMT 11 about the payment or the explanation. So if there are any payment has to be made, then he will make the payment, or if any explanation which has been sought by the proper officer, taxpayer will give the proper explanation in the form ASMT 11. If the information, then what the proper officer will do? If all the information which has been submitted by the taxpayer, if he is convinced that yes, nothing has been short paid or not paid, then he will pass the order in ASMT 12, or if the payment has been made by the taxpayer, which he is finding that yes, it is correct, then also he will file the order, pass the order, and inform it to the registered person in ASMT 12. So that means now for that tax period, the matter has been completed, because now there is no discrepancy, or the discrepancy which has been noticed by the proper officer has been dealt with by the taxpayer. This is the first scenario. Now suppose in other cases, in what would be the other cases wherein the explanation which has been given by the taxpayer may not be satisfactory from the perspective of the proper officer, or after accepting the discrepancy, the taxpayer fails to take the corrective measures which is required to by filing the return. Now suppose if any discrepancy has been noticed, that this payment has been short paid or not paid, then assessing officer is how we will rectify. Now under the GST law, the provision of rectification of the returns are not available. So he has to rectify that by in the succeeding month's return, and he has to inform to the officer that yes, this is the change which as you have suggested, I have made the changes. But if he has failed to do that, now what is the course which is available to the proper officer? Now proper officer said, okay, now here you are not cooperating, you are not giving me proper explanation, you are not rectifying the discrepancy also. So now I will transfer your case to the audit department, wherein tax authority will ask you to carry out the audit under section 65, or he may appoint some outsiders to carry out the special audit. Now you know that under special audit, chartered accountants and cost accountants has been appointed by the department, and they will carry out the audit on the behalf of the government under section 66. Or he may initiate the search and seizure action under section 67 or proceed to determine the tax under section 73 and 74. That means he will issue the demand notice under section 73 and 74. So this is as regards the scrutiny of the returns in respect of a registered taxable person. Let's come to the another thing, assessment. Assessment of the non-filers of the return. Now a person is registered and he is ought to have to file the return as prescribed under section 39 as well as the section 45. Now what is this return which has been prescribed under section 45? That is the final return. That when the SSC is required to file the final return, when the SSC has cancelled his registration due to some reason, then apart from submitting the normal return as required under section 39, he has to file a one final return up to the date of cancellation, and that is known as a final return. Now, if a taxpayer fails to file such final return, then what would be the position? The proper officer will not have the correct data available with him. So the proper officer will serve him a notice to such defaulters of the filer, return filers. In which form it will be filed? Send the notice in form number GSTR 3A and ask the registered person to file the return and comply the law. But still, suppose if the taxpayer doesn't comply, then what will happen? If the registered person still fails to file the return or comply the notice, proper officer will now proceed to assess the tax liability to the best of his judgment based on the information available with him. So whatever information or documents or details which are available with him, he will pass an best judgment order under form number GST ASMT 13. Now, one uniqueness of this GST law. Now, after passing this assessment order, they will also have to upload one summary order, which is a short summary which would be there in form number DRC 07. So whenever in GST law any order is passed, they have to pass one order as well as they have to also upload the summary of the order onto the website portal of the GSTN, so that on the basis of this DRC 07, taxpayer will be able to understand, yes, this is the order which has been passed against me. Now, proper officer, now time limit. Within what time limit such kind of orders, best judgment or assessment orders can be filed? It says the best judgment order can be filed within a period of 5 years from the due date of furnishing of annual return. So please point out the word due date of filing, furnishing the annual return. Now, suppose if you have not filed any particular return, say for example, you have not filed the return for June 19. So normally the time limit starts from that particular month's liability. But here it says no, you have to count the 5 years from the due date of furnishing annual return. That means for the month of June 2019, that year completes in March 2020. Financial year 1920 annual return dues on 31st day of December 2020. So 5 years would be counted from 31st December 2020. That means 31st December 2025 would be the last date to issue the best judgment assessment order for the return which is not filed for the month of June 2019. Right? So very long time which is available with the officer. Now another very important thing over here. After passing of the order, if the registered person then he realized that what blunder he has made, then he can furnish the valid return within 30 days from the passing of this best judgment order. And if he furnish such return, valid return, then this best judgment order would be deemed to be withdrawn. That means ये order वहीं withdrawn हो जाएगा and no further action would be required to be taken. However, if any liability of interest and late filing is built, that will be continued. And also there is no liability to pay penalty also, but interest and late filing fees for filing this June 19 return, that it would be there. So this is as far as the assessment of the non-filer of return, and that is there in section 62. Now let's come to assessment of URP, means unregistered person. How the assessment will take. So the law says that if a taxable person fails to obtain the registration, even though he is liable to do so, that means if his threshold limit, if turnover is more than 20 lakhs rupees, or he is compulsorily required to be get registered under section 25 subsection 3, that means he is making an interstate transaction, or under the reverse charge mechanism he has to discharge the tax liability. These are the some of the clauses under which he is obtained to registration irrespective of his turnover, or whose registration has been cancelled under section 29(2), but who was liable to pay tax. Then under these two circumstances, if the person is unregistered, then how to do the assessment? Then PO will issue the notice in ASMP 14 and allow him a time limit of 15 days to furnish the reply. That means 15 दिन का उनको time दिया जाएगा कि आप please furnish कर दीजिए information and comply the law. But if he fails to do so, the proper officer may proceed to assess the tax liability again on the basis of the best judgment assessment for the relevant tax period on the basis of whatever documents, details or data which is available with him, and do the assessment and pass the assessment order in ASMP 15. And summary of this order would be uploaded in the form DRC 07. Now with this DRC 07 form means the demand and recovery. RC stands for recovery. That's for this summary will be issued under this demand and recovery form number 7. This assessment order, now time limit for passing of the order. Again, the assessment order will have to be passed within a period of 5 years from the due date of furnishing the annual return of the said financial year. Now, you know that for the financial year 17-18, the due date of the filing of annual return has been extended for such a long period. Then accordingly, the due date of doing the assessment of unregistered person will also be increased to that extent. Now, before passing of the order, an opportunity of being heard would always be given before passing of the order, so that the taxpayers will get the proper opportunity. One very important thing over here is that interest would be payable after not only the tax liability, but interest would be also attracted at the rate of 18%. And though the section doesn't talk about the penalty, right, but there is a general clause which is there which says that if anything is during the act, there is no separate penalty has been prescribed, then amount of 25,000 rupees penalty is prescribed under the CGST law. So total penalty would be 50,000 central tax as well as state tax would be leviable under section 125 if during the assessment if some amount has to be payable. Then next is the provisional assessment. What do you mean by this provisional assessment? A taxable person is there and he is not in a position to determine the value of goods or services. There are certain transactions wherein it becomes very difficult to determine what is my value of goods or services. So how he will discharge the tax liability, or the rate of tax applicable on such goods or services, or both. The rate, according to the SSC, the rate of tax might be 12% or 18% in respect of many chapter headings. The parts of the main item is classified whether it would be covered under the main section or a residual section. That confusion is prevailing. So the rate of tax would be whether 12% or 18%, he cannot able to determine. Then in that respect, what is the recourse available to the taxpayer? Then taxpayer may request the officer in writing and in electronic form in ASMP 1 to giving the reasons for payment of taxes on provisional basis. So on the basis of that, if he feels that no, my items parts of the particular item is covered under 12%, so he will discharge the tax liability at the rate of 12% and request the proper officer to provisionally do the assessment of that transaction. The law provides that this payment of tax on provisional basis may be allowed if the taxable person executes a bond along with a surety or a security to the as the proper officer may deem fit, binding the taxable person for payment of the difference between the amount of tax as may be finally assessed and the amount of tax provisionally assessed. So whatever may be the difference, if the according to the taxpayer, if he has determined the rate of tax as 12%, and he is not sure whether it falls under 18% or not, so difference of 6%, that much amount he has to give by way of a bond or a surety and submit it to the proper officer. One thing which has been provided, that this security which has been to be furnished shall not exceed 25% of the amount covered under the bond. So the security should be up to the extent of 25%. Now the application has come to the proper officer to determine the transaction on a provisional basis. So within how much time he has to pass the provisional assessment? Within 90 days from the receipt of application, he has to pass the provisional assessment under the form ASMT 4. तो टैक्स पेयर को बता देगा within 90 days में how much tax he has to discharge, and along with the execution of bond, along with the surety or security. तो उसने बता दिया आप 12% के हिसाब से भर दीजिए. Now he has to do the final assessment, because now the finality has to be there at what rate of tax it has to be paid. So the proper officer is to decide the final assessment within a period of 6 months from the date of communication of the order. 6 months mein they have to decide. So further 3 months time period is available with the proper officer. Within that period of time, he has to determine that how much amount of tax liability is there in respect of that particular transaction. This period of 6 months may be extended with the permission of the joint or additional commissioner for a further period of 6 months. The joint commissioner or additional commissioner ke paas, if the proper officer goes, he will say that yes, I am extending the time limit for 6 months. But the commissioner has power to extend this time limit for not exceeding 4 years period of time. Now the question comes, the payment of it. Now the question comes, now after passing of the order, there's proper officer feels that yes, the rate of tax should be 18%. The taxpayer has discharged the tax liability at the rate of 12%, and that assessment has been done at 18%. So proper officer will say, now you are requested to pay 6% differential tax liability plus interest on that tax differential liability from the day after the due date of payment of tax till the actual date of payment. So उसे 18% इंटरेस्ट भी लगाना पड़ेगा. यहाँ पेनल्टी, he is not required to pay any penalty. However, if it is a case otherwise, that means what will happen, that if the SSC has discharged the tax liability at 12%, but while doing the provisional assessment, it may so happen that it has been determined that the tax liability has to be discharged at 5% rate. Then in that case, the differential tax liability would be refunded to the taxpayer. That means 12% minus 5%, 7% tax would be refunded, and also he would be entitled for a interest at the rate of 9% on that refund amount. This is a welcome provision from the perspective of the taxpayer. Then the summary assessment. This is another kind of assessment which has been there in the GST law. Normally, what happens that when a transaction has been entered by the taxpayer, normally after the end of the month or a quarter, that person has to report it by way of a filing of return. But if the proper officer feels on the basis of evidence which is available with him, that a tax liability of a person which he feels that he will not be able to pay it, so and therefore to protect the interest of the revenue, with the prior permission of the additional commissioner or joint commissioner, he will issue a notice, and because he is under the feeling that this person will escape and will not pay the tax liability on this transaction. This mainly we will be able to see in respect of an e-way bill transaction, wherein the truck has been impounded and because of the non holding of certain documents with them. So at that point of time, the proper officer will issue him, will able on the basis of the documents which are available with him, he will try to assess the assessment. So that's why it is called a summary assessment. Now, proper assessor will issue an assessment order in form ASMT 16 if he has a sufficient ground to believe that any delay in doing so may adversely affect the interest of revenue, and upload the summary of the order in form number DRC 07. Now, assessment has been filed, order has been given. Then taxable person to whom the liability pertains is not ascertainable, and such liability pertains to the supply of goods, then the person in charge of such goods shall be deemed to be the taxable person liable to be assessed. So as I have told you that when your goods are moving from one place to another, say from Bombay, it is going to Gujarat, and between the Bombay and Gujarat, if that vehicle has been intercepted and the assessing officer feels that the proper tax liability has not been discharged, then he will do the summary assessment. Now, suppose at that point of time he cannot able to ascertain who is the owner of the goods, then he will say that the person who is holding that goods, that would be considered as a person liable to pay tax and he has to discharge the tax liability. Now, उसने तो summary assessment order बना दिया. Now, what is the recourse available with the taxpayer? Yes, that is a recourse available to taxpayer. What? Taxpayer can make an application in ASMT 17 for the withdrawal of order within 30 days from the receipt of this search order. So within 30 days, he has an option to apply before the additional commissioner or joint commissioner that no, sir, whatever is tax has been discharged is correctly discharged. So you are requested to withdraw this order immediately. Now the ball is in the court before the additional or joint commissioner. They may withdraw the order if they find that such order is erroneous. Then in that respect, this order would be withdrawn and taxpayer need not have to pay the tax liability which is assessed by the proper officer. Then rectification of order. This we will go at some later date. At the end we will see. Now, after issuance of this notice, now naturally the demand has to be created. What we have seen over here in respect of a summary assessment, in respect of assessment of a non-filers, scrutiny of the return, wherein we have said that proper officer will have issued the notice and now the demand comes. So naturally, how the demand has to notice has to be sent for the demand of the tax payment, interest and penalty if leviable. So for that matter, section 73 and section 74 is there in the statute books. Now let us see under what circumstances this section 73 and section 74 can be invoked. What are their time limits? What kind of tax penalties to be levied under section 70 as well as 74? Let us see how it works. So circumstances under which the provisions can be invoked. First of all, section 73 law provides that when the tax is not paid or a tax is short paid or erroneously refund of tax amount or wrong availment or utilization of input tax credit for reasons other than fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade the payment of tax. That means they have envisaged 4 situations, right? What are those 4 situations? If there are for a particular transaction, tax is not paid or tax is short paid or tax has been erroneously refunded. He has given the refund, but later on he comes to know, officer, that this refund is the assessing of the taxpayer is not eligible or entitled, then he will ask for the erroneous refund of the thing, or wrong availment or utilization of credit. Section if the taxpayer has taken the credit on the motor car which is not available, then that is a wrong availment or the utilization of the credit, and that credit needs to be again taken back from that officer. Now, if all these 4 events has been taken place other than the fraud or willful misstatement or a suppression of tax to evade the payment of tax, then section 373 can be invoked. Now, when under what circumstances section 74 can be invoked? It says if these 4 situations are there, but this 4 situation is due to the reason of fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of tax to evade the payment of tax. That means taxpayer wanted to evade the payment of tax by not paying tax or by making short payment of tax or by availing wrong liability. Many taxpayers say, "Sir, chalo na dekh lenge kya hota hai. Let me pay that not to pay tax in respect of one particular transaction out of 100 transactions. Then later on we will see what will happen. Nikal gaya to nikal gaya, apna to paisa bach gaya." Or they may avail the credit. They say, "This is a self-assessment era. So if my case is not selected for the scrutiny of the return, then I can avail the credit." So he can avail the wrong availment also. Then in that situation, if it is found that this is with the intention to evade payment of tax with fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of tax, then in that section, the section 74 has to be invoked. Now here we have seen the 3 words: fraud, willful misstatement, and suppression of the facts. Right. So now let us try to understand the meaning of these 3 terms. fraud, willful misstatement, and suppression of the facts. Because the whole demand, section 73 and section 74 is on this basis. Now let us understand fraud. The dictionary meaning of meaning is wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. That means that action is created with an intention.
આપણે લીધેલા છે કે નહીં? આપણે ટેલીમાં છે.
With an intention to result in financial or personal. You dupe the government by making a fraud. Then let us take the meaning of the definition as per the Indian Penal Code. What it says, a person is said to do a thing fraudulently if he does that thing with an intent to defraud but not otherwise. That means intention is to defraud. He wanted to commit a fraud, and that is why it is known as a, then he is said to be a fraud, doing fraud. Then now let us see as per the Indian Contract Act, what do you mean by fraud? It says fraud means making a suggestion as a fact which the person making does not believe it to be true. That means while making a statement, person knows that whatever statement I am making is a false statement. That means he is doing something with the intention to fraud, and this is known as a fraud. Now let us understand what you mean by willful misstatement. Now every misstatement need not be a willful. Mark this. Every misstatement need not be a willful. There has to be a willfulness. Willfulness is deliberate or intentional. That means I am with an intention I am making some misstatement. Normal misstatement can never be covered over here. There has to be a misstatement, and that should be a willful. The dictionary meaning is having or showing a stubborn and determined intention to do as one wants, regardless of the consequences. Right? Now, a false statement will be termed as willful if it is intentional or deliberate. So this is very important. So if you will see that this two term fraud and willful misstatement is very subjective, right? Now let's see the third thing, suppression of fact. Now suppression of fact, now those who are practicing in central excise or service tax previously, they may have come across the show cause notice. At that point of time, I have come to know that most of the time the proper officer or the officer will say that there is a suppression of fact. They will never try to say that there is a fraud or willful mistake. Now at that point of time, they have not defined what is my suppression of fact, and therefore the dictionary meaning or a legal interpretation has to taken place. But here in the GST law, they have defined what do you mean by the suppression at the explanation 2. What it tries to say, suppression shall be non-declaration of facts or information which a taxable person is required to declare in the return, a statement, report, or any other document. That means while filing the return, the taxpayer has to be very much cautioned that whatever information is declared in the return is correct, and not only correct, but all the information has to be submitted, right? Or failure to furnish any information on being asked for in writing by the proper officer. The proper officer has demanded some information, but he doesn't furnish the detail, then also it would be considered as a suppression of a fact. Now, the intention to evade tax is not mere failure to pay tax. It must be something more like deliberately avoiding payment of duty. Now, here they have gone one step ahead, it appears to me. Previously, there has to be a mens rea, right? Now, the mens rea is not required. They say that if you are just fail to disclose the facts or information, it would be termed as a suppression, and the extended period of time limit will be applied. Now, what will be my extended time limit? I will just come within after this. So that means section 74 can be invoked in such a situation. Now, while this fraud or willful misstatement of suppression of tax with intent to evade payment of tax has to be introduced, then it is on the duty of the proper officer to prove that this fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of fact which was with an intent to evade the payment of. That means in the show cause notice, he has to demonstrate that what kind of fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of tax has been done by the taxpayer. Then and then only the extended period of time limit can be invoked in can be invoked, otherwise normal time limit is applicable. Now let us go to the time limit that I was referring. Now when an order demand, what I was talking, the demand or passing of the order has to be within 3 years from the due date of furnishing of annual return for the financial year to which the tax has not been paid or short paid or a wrong availment of or utilization of ITC relates to, or 3 years from the date of erroneous refund. So if there is an erroneous refund, then from the date of giving refund 3 years has to be counted. But if the demand is in respect of any tax which has not been paid or short paid or wrong availment of ITC, then the date of filing of annual return has to be taken into consideration. And in respect of section 74, if it has been with an intent to evade tax, the time limit is 5 years. That's why I was saying the extended period of time limit. So in normal circumstances, 3 years time limit is there. But if the extended period has to be invoked, that means if the taxpayer has committed some fraud or a willful misstatement or a suppression with an intent to evade payment of tax, then in that respect, within 5 years, they have put the time limit to pass an order. Now, we have understood what and when they have to pass the order, but when the notice has to be issued. So, first thing is the notice has to be issued within 3 months prior to the issue of the order. Now, we know that within 3 years, the order has to be issued. So, now what they are saying, that 3 months has to be for issuance of the notice, 3 years has to months prior to the issue of the order. That means 2 years and 9 months. Within 2 years and 9 months, if the proper officer feels that yes, this tax is to be collected for the reason of not being paid or a short paid or an erroneous refund or a wrong availment or utilization of credit, then they has to issue the notice, and then within 3 months he has to pass the assessment order. So this is the maximum time limit. So that doesn't mean he can also issue the notice at an earlier date, but the maximum time limit is 3 years, and the minimum from the date on which the annual return has to be respected. So now let us see for the financial year 17-18. Now, as what our president and my dear friend Dinesh Tamde was referring, that now all the returns and annual return has been filed. So now the assessment will take place and time barring things will come. So now we know that for the first year, financial year 17-18, the annual return due date was previously 31st December 18, but because of the first year, because there was a lot of confusion prevailing between amongst the taxpayers and as well as the authorities, this due date has been extended several times, and lastly 31st January 2020 was considered to be a due date for filing the return of the annual return for the financial year 17-18. So now see how the date has been extended from the perspective of the department. Now, so if the department wanted to issue any notice for the recovery of short paid or a non-paid or a wrongful availment of ITC in normal circumstances, then till January 23 they have the power. So the period is 17-18. उनको time मिल गया till January 23 they can issue the and complete the assessment. And if they prove that this demand is in respect to evade the payment of tax, then section 74 can be invoked, and the time limit would be extended for 2 years, that 5 years counted from the March 20 or January 20, so it would be January 25. So this is the time limit which is there. So very huge time limit is now available with the officer, and now really a challenging task for all the professionals that how to deal with that. Now, after understanding the issuance of notice, now we have to understand the monetary limit for adjudication, that who has the power to issue the notice. That is also very important. Every person cannot issue the notice. So the circular has been issued, and wherein they have given the power to the various officers ranks of the CDIC. So what are the powers? They have divided the officers into 3 categories: superintendent, assistant and deputy commissioner, and additional or joint commissioner, and various powers has been given. So now the superintendent can issue the notice in respect of CGST matter up to INR 10 lakhs rupees. So now the next question is, that in a transaction there is a CGST plus SGST both is there, and because of the administration of the whole GST law, central officer has the power to, whenever he is in his jurisdiction case falls, he has the power to assess the SGST law also. So that means here we have to count the limit of 20 lakhs rupees. So superintendent of CGST have a power to issue the notice up to INR 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs rupees CGST 10 and SGST 10 lakhs rupees. If the transaction is of IGST, then up to 20 lakhs rupees he can issue the notice. If the amount is more, then assistant commissioner or a deputy commissioner can issue the notice, and the time limit is 10 lakhs, above rupees 10 lakhs, but up to 1 crore rupees. This again would be doubled if it is in respect of SGST. So 20 lakhs and 2 crore rupees. Additional commissioner and joint commissioner can issue the notice about 2 crore rupees and without any monetary limit. That means they have the last power, they can issue the notice only up to any amount. This jurisdiction has been provided under circular number 31/05/2018 dated 9/2/2018, wherein they have given powers to the various officers to issue the notice under section 73 or 74. Then once the notice has been issued, now the assessing or proper officer has determined that yes, I have to issue the notice to the taxpayer for non-payment of tax or short payment of tax or that circumstances. Then before issuance of the notice, he will intimate or communicate for the payment of tax or interest or penalty in part A of the form GST DRC 01 before the issuance of the short course notice, and ask the taxpayer to make the payment of tax along with applicable interest on the either on the basis of his own ascertainment or on the basis of the taxpayer himself. So one more opportunity to the taxpayer that the coercive action would not be taken if he pays the tax either voluntarily or on the basis of the tax determined or ascertained by the proper officer. And in respect of section 74, he says that you pay the tax along with interest plus only the 15% as penalty, so that the assessing of proper officer need not have to issue the show cause notice and then do the adjudication. So that option is available. But suppose if he doesn't, and now suppose if he has accepted that, yes, now let me pay the tax so that this adjudication should not take place, then what is the time? He says then that if the taxpayer pays the tax along with interest and a penalty within 30 days from the date of issue of notice, then in that case penalty shall not be applicable and all the proceedings in respect of that shall be deemed to be concluded. Right. So if it is section 73, no penalty, further penalty would be there. Section 74 is there, then only 15% penalty and no other penalty would be payable in respect of any other transaction, and no proceedings or prosecutions would be there, and the transactions would be deemed to be concluded, since he is not now going for the issuance of the notice and do the adjudication. But suppose he says कि no. Now suppose he says that no, let me do the argument, let me put my explanation, and the SSS proper officer has not accepted his presentation, whatever submission he has made, then the assessing proper officer has to pass the order. Now what is the time limit of passing order? It says within 3 years if it is section 73, and 5 years if it is section 74 from the due date of furnishing of the annual return, or within 3 years or 5 years from the date of erroneous refund. He has to pass the order, and then he has to upload the summary order electronically on form DRC 07, which would specify the amount of tax, interest and penalty which would be payable by the person chargeable with tax. So that means if the order has been issued, then within the time limit is 3 years or 5 years from the date of furnishing the annual return. Now what would be the penalty? If before service of the notice, then no penalty is payable. We have seen that. And if it is section 73, that means without the fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of factor with an intent to prevent payment of tax. If it is section 74, then 15% of the amount. Hello, can you mute the all the participant? Hello, hello, hello. Dilip,
Please mute all the participants. It's creating a lot of disturbance.
lot of disturbance, Sachin. Hello.
Muske, delete, don't mute.
हेलो मस्के
बोलो. हेलो आदित्य भाई, अशित भाई.
mute all the participants. There is lot of
कर
disturbance.
दिया है.
Yeah, thank you dear. Now if the taxpayer make the tax payment along with interest before the service of the notice, then no penalty would be levied if the demand is issued under section 73. If the demand has been issued under section 74, then he has to pay penalty only to the extent of 15% of tax amount. If he has not made the payment before service of notice, but he has made the payment within 30 days of the issuance of notice, then also there is no penalty if the demand is in respect of section 73, but he has to pay 25% of the amount of penalty if the notice is under section 74. Now, how much is the penalty after considering if the order is passed? Now, suppose he has not paid the tax, but he has to pay the tax after the passing of the order. Then what would be the amount of tax and penalty? He has to pay the tax as well as interest. Now the penalty would be 10% of the amount or rupees 10,000, whichever is higher. So if during the adjudication proceeding, if the tax amount has been determined to be 10 lakhs rupees, then 10% of 10 lakh would be 1 lakh rupees or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher. So naturally 1 lakh rupees, that would be the penalty if the demand is for other than fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of fact. But if it is under section 74, then what would be the penalty? It says 50% of the tax amount. 50% of the tax amount if it has been paid within 30 days. If it has been paid after 30 days, then 100% of the tax amount. That means if we are saying that if there is a tax liability of say 10 lakhs rupees, then if he makes the payment after passing of the order within 30 days, then that penalty would be up to 50% of the tax amount, that is 5 lakhs rupees. But if he doesn't pay it up within the 30 days of the order passed, then 100% of the tax amount, that is 10 lakhs rupees penalty, which has to be liable. So very big penalty is there if the during the adjudication of proceedings, if it has been proved that this tax payment was due to the reason of evading the tax liability. Now we have seen the service of notice. So now how the notice has to be served? Let us give a few minutes on that aspect. How the notice has to be served. Section 169 is there, which provides a mechanism how the notice has to be served. So service of notice, how you can serve the notice? By tendering, that is by hand delivery, then by courier, registered post or speed post, or through an authorized representative. You can also give to the consultant or authorized representative of such taxpayers, or by email. And now in the GSTN portal, you can make it available in the GSTN portal. In the dashboard of the GSTN portal, you can see the view notices. Notices therein you have to see every day that is there any notice has been issued to me, that would also be considered to be a valid servicing of the notice, or publication in the local newspaper. This is a serve. Now if it is not practical able to serve the notice due to some reason, then you can also serve the notice by affixing a copy on the place of his business or residence, or on the notice board of the issuing authority. So if the proper officer can also paste that notice on the notice board of his office and display it that this person has to comply the law. So this is the various mode by which the notices can be served. Now, while passing the order, what precautions or what are the circumstances or the provisions relating to the passing of the order? Now, while passing of the order, one of the very important thing is the opportunity of being heard. Whether that order is passed under section 73 or 74, but these provisions would be applicable. First of all, opportunity of being heard. This is a natural justice. Always the opportunity of heard has to be given to the taxpayer. So if the taxpayer specifically mentioned in his submission or a representation that I would like to avail the personal hearing at the time of adjudication, then he has to give the personal hearing before he is passing the final order. Where he has not asked for the personal hearing, but while passing the assessment order, proper officer feels that there is some adverse decision as is contemplated. That means he feels that there is a tax liability of 10 lakhs rupees against him. Then he may have to give the proper hearing, personal hearing before passing of the order, because this is a very huge liability. So, though the taxpayer has not asked for the personal hearing, he may have to give the personal hearing. He has to give an opportunity, and then only has to pass the order. Now, grant of adjournment of the hearing. If sufficient cause has been shown by the taxpayer because of his personal reason that he cannot able to come on the date which has been fixed by the proper officer, then he can give the grant the adjournment on the when it has come to him in writing. However, you cannot prolong such kind of adjournment. That means if the law provides that at the most maximum 3 adjournment is possible. You cannot, the taxpayers will not get more than 3 times the adjournment. So all the taxpayers will have to be cautious that he will not be able to get the 3 times opportunity of being heard. If he cannot able to appear in this 3 period time, then the proper officer has all the right to pass the assessment order on the basis of his best judgment. Then next is the speaking order, which is very important. All the order has to be a speaking order. Now, what do you mean by speaking order means? Proper officer has to set out all the relevant facts and the basis of his decision on his order. Whatever he feels that he is on the basis on which he is relied, he has to put it on the order. He just cannot say that this is a taxable, or in my view it is taxable. He has to give the proper reason why he feels, on what basis, is there any judicial pronouncement that because of this I have come to this conclusion. This is known as a speaking order. Moreover, the amount of tax, interest and penalty demanded in the order shall not be more than the amount specified in the notice. That means if while issuing the show cause notice, the amount of tax which has been determined is 10 lakhs rupees, then while passing the order, that amount cannot be more than 10 lakhs rupees or less than 10 lakhs, cannot be more than 10 lakhs rupees. Yes, of course, it can be lesser than that amount, but certainly not more than 10 lakhs rupees. And further, no demand shall be confirmed on the ground other than the ground specified in the notice. Now, suppose while issuing the show cause notice, he have taken out the 4 circumstances under which the tax liability has been demanded from the taxpayer. Now, while having the adjudication and passing the order, he cannot bring the 5th ground or on the basis of which he can demand the tax. That means whatever he has pointed out in the show cause notice, only on that basis he has to pass the assessment order. Then, very important thing, the interest on the tax short paid or not paid shall be payable whether or not specified in the order determining the tax liability. Previously, the argument were been paid that in the show cause notice the interest was not determined. While passing the final or during the adjudication proceeding and the order has been passed, at that point of time, assessing officer has failed to mention the interest portion. Then the laws now provide that if nothing has been specified in the order, then also the taxpayer is liable to pay the interest on that short payment or not paid amount, whether or not that has been specified in the order or not. Right? Then the adjudication or proceeding shall be deemed to be completed if the order is not passed within the time frame provided under section 73 and 74. That means if the order is not passed within 3 years or 5 years, as the case may be, then that proceedings will be deemed to be completed and the no order is to be issued for that. Further, Where any penalty is imposed under section 73 or 74, we have seen the amount of penalty, right? In respect of 74, 15%, 25%, 50% and 100%. Now, if the tax, depending upon the various circumstances that we have seen. Now, if the penalty, if any imposed under section 73 or 74, then no further penalty would be payable for the same act or omission shall be imposed on the same person under any other provisions of the act. That means under section 125, residual clause is there. Section 122 is also there. Then the proper officer cannot resort to go there and say, now you have to pay this penalty also. That for the same omission or act. Then where any amount is self-assessed in accordance with a return which has been furnished under section 39, which is remains unpaid, either wholly or partly, or any amount of interest payable on such tax remains unpaid, then the same shall be recovered under the provisions of section 79, recovery proceeding. That means they are saying that you cannot recover the tax which has been self-assessed and pending or due from the taxpayer. For that matter, you cannot issue the notice under section 73 or 74. Then in that respect, you have to go to section 79, which is the recovery section that we will deal within a couple of minutes. So that section 73, 74 will not be applicable. Then where the service of notice or issuance of order is stayed by an order of a court or an appellate tribunal, then the period of such stay shall be excluded in computing the time limit which has been prescribed for 3 years and 5 years. So if any thing has been stayed by any court, Bombay High Court or an appellate tribunal, then that period would be excluded. Where any appellate authority or an appellate tribunal or a court concludes that a notice which was issued under section 74 on the person for the reason that the charges of FWS means fraud, willful misstatement or suppression fact has not been established against the person to whom the notice was issued, then proper officer shall determine the tax liability on such person, deeming as if the notice was issued under section 73. That means अगर 74 बोला appellate authority, a tribunal or any other court that section 74 cannot be extended, that means extended period of time limit is not applicable, 5 साल तक आपके पास time नहीं है proper officer, then proper officer cannot say कि अभी मैं proceeding छोड़ देता हूँ, तो उसको complete करना पड़ेगा assessment under section 73, and that means 3 साल में इसको order pass करना पड़ेगा, right? Then where any order is required to be issued in pursuance of a direction of the appellate authority or appellate tribunal or a court, that means remand back, then such order shall be issued within a period of 2 years from the date of communication of the said order. Now, when the order has been passed and it has been gone before any appellate authority or tribunal, and tribunal has remanded back the order, then within 2 years he has to pass the order. So, these all are the general provisions as regards the demand of the tax under section 73 and 74. After coming to the demand, understanding under section 17(3)(c) and section 74, now let us see the recovery proceedings. Under what circumstances tax can be recovered or the amount can be recovered which is due to the taxpayer. First, tax collected but not paid to the government. Every person who is collected from any person any amount represented as tax under this act but has not paid the same amount to the government, then such person has to pay this amount to the government irrespective of the fact that the supply in respect of which such amount was collected are taxable or not taxable. Now say for example there is a one transaction of supply wherein it was not liable to tax, but the taxpayer doesn't know at that point of time, so he has levied the tax of say 1 lakh rupees and tax amount was 18%, so 18,000, so 1,18,000 rupees he has collected from the service recipient, supplier of the recipient of the supply. Later on, while filing the return, his consultant has told him, sir, on this supply, this is an exempted supply or tax is not liable on this supply. So this 18,000 rupees you are not liable to pay to the government. So now what will happen? Then two options are available to him. Either he should give back that 18,000 rupees to the recipient of the supply, that is the first thing, or he has to pay it to the government, but he cannot keep that amount with himself. Now, if he has not returned it to the recipient of the supply, then proper officer will serve on such person a notice requiring to show cause as to why the said amount is not recovered from along with interest from him, and a penalty equivalent to the amount which is specified in the notice. Now, this notice has to be issued, order has to be issued within 1 year from the date of issuance of the notice. And further, it says that the person who has borne the incidence of the amount, that is the recipient of supply, may apply for the refund of the same in accordance with the provision of section 54. That means यहाँ government कहता है कि अगर इस बंदे ने, that means supplier of supplier has collected the taxes, though he is not required to pay the tax, then government has he has to pay to the government. At the same time, government can also not take the money with himself. He has to transfer it to the amenities fund of the consumers welfare fund. But at the same time, if the recipient of the supply comes and demand the tax, then he has to go and apply for the refund to the government, because here government is also not authorized to keep that money with themselves, and therefore the provision of refund to the recipient of supply is also provided, and he can ask the refund under section 54. Therefore, the recipient of supply will also liable to eligible to claim the refund of money which he has paid wrongfully. The next situation, tax wrongfully collected and paid to the government. Now, it may so happen that registered person may have paid the CGST and SGST or UTGST on an intrastate transaction, but at a later stage, it has been held that such transaction is not intrastate transaction, but such transaction are interstate transaction, and the IGST is to be payable on such supply, or vice versa. Then in that situation, what will happen? So what is that if the transaction or the supply is exposed to an intrastate supply, that means on which C or S or UTGST is to be payable, but wrongly the taxpayer has paid IGST, then what is the remedy? He has to claim the refund amount of the IGST from the government, and what are the consequences? He has to pay CGST plus SGST or UTGST. Conversely, if the transaction happens to be a interstate transaction, but wrongly the SSC has paid and considered it as an intrastate transaction and paid C plus S or UTGST, then in that respect, what is the remedy? He can claim the refund amount of C plus S or UTIT under Rule 89(2)J, and consequently he has to pay the IGST and no interest has to be payable. Now, interesting thing over here is that we very specifically written that if the IGST has to be recovered, has to be paid, though no interest has to be payable. That has been notified in section 77, but not in respect when the intrastate transaction has become an interstate transaction. Then they have not said anything about the interest. So I would request my chairman Gupta ji to throw some light whether the interest has to be payable when the tax has been wrongly paid as an intrastate transaction, which is subsequently held to be an interstate transaction, whether the interest has to be liable to be paid by the taxpayer. Then recovery of tax. Now let's see under which circumstances the tax has to be recovered, and that is there in section 78 to 84. Any amount which is to be payable by a taxable person in pursuance of an order passed under this act, that means 73 or 74, that should be paid within a period of 33 months from the date of service of such order. Failing with the recovery proceeding shall be initiated. That means whenever any order has been passed, within 3 months, the amount which is specified in the order, that is tax, interest, and penalty, is to be paid within 3 months period of time. If the person fails to do so, then the recovery action may be taken against such person. However, this period of 3 months may be shortened if the proper officer considered it expedient and in the interest of the revenue and the reasons to be recorded in writing, that such person has to make the payment of tax for a shorter period of 3 months, then he can have to intimate that person that was you are not allowed the time of till 3 months, you pay the tax at an early date. Now, how the recovery would be done by the proper officer? There are various situations. First situation, deduction from any money payable to the person. The person taxpayer may have to recover some money from any other from his debtors. Then the notice would be issued to that debtors that you, instead of paying the money to the that tax defaulter person, you pay it to the government. Then recovery through detaining and selling of the goods. That means the authority may detain the goods which is belong to the taxpayers and then sell the goods and appropriate that amount towards the tax, interest and penalty. Recovery from any other person who is required to pay any amount to the defaulter, that is the garnishing order. Restrain the property of the person. He can also seize the property, immovable property of the person. As the areas of land revenue, recovery through magistrate, authority can use one or other method. That means for one transaction, that means alternatively all the methods can be also be invoked to recover the money. Recovery from the bond if provided, and last is the recovery out of interhead refund amongst the against interhead due amount, that is CGST or IGST against SGST and vice versa. So these are the recovery modes which the officer can restore to collect the amount from the taxpayer. Now the amount has been finalized, that is this much recovery needs to be taken from the taxpayer. Now, whether the option is there before the taxpayer, then the time limit has been fixed that within 3 months he has to make the payment of tax. Now, let us understand whether the taxpayer has an option to file and make an application before the authority for extending the time limit for making payment of tax, or to make the payment of tax in installment. Yes, the time limit option is always available to the taxpayer. Taxpayer has to make an application before the commissioner in form DRC 20 seeking the extension for making payment of tax. That means after 3 months period of time, or allowing to make the payment in monthly installment. Now, suppose if the commissioner feels that yes, the time limit has to be extended or he has to be given time to make the payment in installment, then he will allow the extended period of time. But here the taxpayer is liable to pay the interest at the rate of 18%. Another important thing is that this facility of installment is not applicable where the amount for which installment facility is sought is less than 25,000 rupees. So 25,000 se kam hai, they will not give you any installment. Okay? And this installment would be for a maximum period of 24 months. So these are that means the taxpayer has an option to make an application for extending the time limit or to make the payment in installment. Now we know that the person doesn't have the payment to make the payment. Then what is the option available with the authority? Now during that process of recovery, where any person after the amount which has been become due from him, he cannot due from him, he can create a charge on or with part with the property belonging to him or part with the property in his possession by way of a sale, mortgage, exchange or any other mode of transfer any of his property in favor of other person. That means he cannot transfer the property in favor of another person when any amount is due from him, with an intention of defrauding the government revenue. That is very important. And such charge or transfer shall be void as against any claim in respect of any tax or other sum payable by the said person. However, they have given one relaxation. He said that such charge or transfer shall not be void when under 4 circumstances. Number first, if it is made for adequate consideration, if any parting of the property or if by way of a sale, if it has been made with an adequate consideration or creating a charge for it an adequate consideration, then such transfer shall not be void. If it has been done in good faith and without notice of the pendency of such proceeding under the Act, that means person was not aware that there is a notice of the pendency under this Act. Number 3, without notice of such tax or other sum payable by the same person. That means the person who has taken the transfer from such taxable person, he was not aware about it. Then with the previous permission of the proper officer, if the permission has been taken from the proper officer, then such charge or transfer shall not be considered to be void. Then, very importantly, tax to be charged on the property. What it says, very important. Read it. It says, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any law for the time being imposed. Mark the word any law for the time being imposed, except under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, any amount which is payable by a tax payable person or any other person on account of tax, interest and penalty which is liable to pay to the government shall be a first charge on the property of such taxable person or such person. That means wo property ke upar first charge is of the government. Though anything has been contained in the any other law for the time being, but except for the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, तो वहाँ उनको first पहले charge जाता है. Otherwise, government has the charge on that property which is there of the taxable person, and he can take all the actions for the recovery of the amount of tax, interest, and penalty. Then, provisions relating to protecting of the revenue, where during the pendency of any proceeding, now pendency of proceeding means assessment of non-filers of return, now when the provisional attachment to protect the revenue, that means while any proceedings are carried out, and if the assessing officer feels that yes, I have to protect the interest of revenue, then what kind of proceedings? By assessment of the non-filers of the return, assessment of an unregistered person, or while he's carrying out summary assessment, or search or seizure, or demand of tax under section 73 or 74. And if he feels that during these proceedings, if the taxable, if a person flies away, then to protect the interest of revenue with the permission of the commissioner, he will say that I am attaching provisionally any property, including the bank account belonging to such taxable person in such manner. That means he has all the right to attach the bank account. जब भी आपका any proceedings is going on under the above section, but the permission from the commissioner is important. Every such provisional assessment shall ceases to have the effect after the expiry of a period of 1 year from the date of the order made under subsection 1. That means this provisional attachment of the property or a bank account would be released after within a period of 1 year after from the date of order made under subsection 1. That means whenever an order is passed under the, section 73 or 74, then within 1 year that attachment has to be removed. Now, how the things would work. The commissioner shall send a copy of the order or attachment to the concerned revenue authority or a transport authority or any such authority to place encumbrance on the said movable property or immovable property, which shall be removed only on the written instruction from the commissioner. That means commissioner बता देगा कि इस property के ऊपर अभी पहला मेरा right है and no one can have the right on that property. Without his permission, this property cannot be taken. Now, if the property which has been attached is of the nature, is of perishable or hazardous nature, then क्या होगा? Then the law provides that if the taxable person pays an amount equivalent to the market price of such property or pays the amount which has become payable by him, then that perishable or hazardous nature commodity will be released immediately. तो उसको उनको immediately release कर देंगे. But if such taxable one fails to pay an amount to the commissioner, then the commissioner will dispose of such property and adjust the money which has been realized from the sale against the tax, interest, penalty, or any other amount payable to him. Now, when the property is attached, the taxable person may file an objection within 7 days to the effect that such property was not liable to be attached. That means that option is always available to him. Whenever his property is provisionally attached or during the pendency of the assessment proceeding, he can file an objection within 7 days to the effect that such property was not liable for attachment. Commissioner may, after giving an opportunity of being heard, release the said property by an order in GST DRC 23. That means commissioner may release the opportunity if he feels that yes, there is nothing, revenue is properly protected, and then in that respect, the property would be provisional attachment would be released, and he has been passed the order in DRC 23. So friends, here I have concluded my views or presentation on this subject of assessment, determination of tax, and the recovery of the tax proceedings. And lastly, I would now request my chairman to give the some remark on whatever I have presented before all of you. And thank you to once again, thank you to the organizers and all the participants who are present on this webinar for listening me and have my views on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, over to you, Gupta sir.
Friends, you have listened to Ashit Shah. He has gone through from the various sections.
Sorry, sir. May I request Ashit bhai to stop sharing?
Yeah. I'm doing that.
Yes, sir.
You have seen that he has elaborately covered the provisions up to section 84 from section 62. He has nicely described the various provisions, how the assessment will be made. But kindly see what are the implications we are going to have. We have around 1 crore 20 lakhs SSCs. And what is the implication of this scrutiny? Hello.
Yes, sir.
What are the implications of this? Mr. Ashit has started with the scrutiny of the return. And he said if there's a discrepancy, the notice will be served in ASMD 10. Now I'll give you one example to explain. Suppose you are...
Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Can we hear now?
Yeah.
So let me give an example where the scrutiny takes place. Suppose you are manufacturer of a Navratna Tel oil, which is a famous product, and you have classified that product as a medicine, not as a hair oil. A medicine attracts tax at the rate of 12%, whereas the hair oil attracts the tax at the rate of 18%. Why you are classified as the medicine? If you look at their advertisement, it very clearly says that it gives relief in headache, sound sleep. So these are the ingredients. There are ingredients which helps you to do this. Once you have classified this as a product, as a medicine, and paid 12%, and department is of the opinion that during scrutiny, it should be classified as a hair oil attracting 18% tax. What it will do is, it will have to give a show cause notice under section 73 or 74, whichever way you feel. Those who have dealt with the department, most of you have dealt with the department, you are well aware that they are basically raising officers to raise revenue, and they classify the product in the category which attracts the highest rate of tax. And we have so many instances where one authority wants to classify in X way manner, other authority wants to classify in Y manner, and that goes on. Now see the implication of this. They want to recover 6% tax from the various persons who have sold it. Prior to GST, it was there, some dispute was there. In case of excise, there were hardly 2-3 manufacturers of the hair oil, and the notices were being served to these 3 manufacturers who are manufacturing the hair oil, because the excise duty was levied on the manufacturer. There was no tax demand of tax from the various distributors, retailers, stockists, etc. But today, if the department takes this opinion, takes this view and tries to recover 18%, they will have to issue show cause notice under section 73 or 74 to almost all the retailers, stockist, manufacturer, I mean everybody down the line in the logistic chain until it reaches to a consumer. And I mean there will be lakhs of people. Every retailer in the nook and corner sells such kind of a normal product. The implication of this, the notices will flow left, right and center to everybody. Now such dispute do not get decided in a short time. The experience in excise and excise has been that it takes at least a decade for Supreme Court, at least I'm saying a decade, for matter to reach up to Supreme Court and finally Supreme Court deciding such issue. Now if such notices keep on going for every return to various assessees, you can imagine the number of show cause notices which will be given under section 73 and 74. Of course, this will have to be fought. This is one of the example I gave you on the rate of tax, as you are all aware, is varies from 0% to 28%. And we are seeing day in and day out advanced ruling authorities giving the various advanced ruling, classifying the product under various heads, right or wrong, whatever it is there. And if on that basis the notices start being issued, then you are going to have a tremendous pressure on the SSE, registered person, as also on the professionals like us. That's why I said in the beginning of my speech that all of us should not only understand the law, but also try to understand what is going to be the implication in practical terms. Merely filing return and all this is all right. I mean, one has to do that. So if in such a case, the scrutiny, if the officer raises such a notices, you must properly reply with evidences. And as regards classification, this example, whatever judgments have taken place in either in sales tax or in the excise, you can very well be very quote them. Officer may accept, may not accept such thing. That's a different matter. But at least you will make an attempt to see that such things are not carried forward further. And therefore, the attending to scrutiny and assessment becomes a very, very relevant thing. One gets an opportunity at the time when such scrutiny takes place to place all their facts, case laws, and submissions before the proper officer to make him understand that whatever he has done is correct. If you do not do that, then you have to face with the show cause notice, and then the notices do flow, take time to decide. Luckily, as Ashit Bhai has mentioned, that in this section 73 and 74, a time limit has been prescribed. The assessing officer must pass an order within 3 years from the due date of annual return in case of 73 and within 5 years. In case of excise and service tax, after the notice has been issued, I mean parallel to 73 and 74, in excise there is a section 11A and in service tax section 73A. Both are parallel, but there is no time limit put in the section by which the order has to be passed after the notices have been given. The result is, now we are in 2020 today. In many cases, show cause was issued in 99-2000, but till today the order has not been passed. We are all carrying those files. Every time we go for a hearing, they say, "Abhi to order pass nahi hoga." Luckily, we hope that this gets implemented properly and the orders get passed within the time limit within which has been specified therein. And let us see, the consequence are also specified. If they don't pass an order, then they can't pass an order subsequent to that. We'll have to wait and watch, because it's the first time they brought the provision. Otherwise, you see, when the hearing for such notices come up in the in Excise and Custom, many people have gone to High Court straight away, and High Court has held repeatedly that you can't fix a hearing to notices after 10 years and 12 years. I mean, person is supposed to keep the record in income tax for 6 years, in company law 5 years. So the period is specified. But if you ask somebody to appear for personal hearing and produce a record after 12 years, 13 years, High Court has struck down the notices there and then on that ground itself. But one hope in this case it will not happen. That's why I was requesting to all the participants that you must understand the implication of whatever Asit Bhai has said and do it. The next point which he has covered for non-filers, ASMT 13 has been issued. A left, right and center ASMT 13 has been being issued. It happens in two ways. Many people have filed GSTR 1 but not filed GSTR 3B. As we all know, GSTR 1 enables the recipient to avail the credit, because the credit then gets reflected in 2A, in his 2A. But GSTR 3B is a document on the basis of which tax is paid. And once the department realizes that the 3B is not filed but 1 is filed, they issue the order in the form of ASMT 13, specifying tax amount, best judgment, then the interest amount and the late fee amount. The law also provides that if you file the return within 30 days, then the taxes, this is deemed to have been withdrawn, but the interest and late fee liability still remains. We have a dispute today whether the interest is payable on a gross amount or it is payable on a net amount of this. There are judgments of both sides, judgments are there. But point I'm making is, many people we have seen after ASMT 13 has been received, they have just filed a return. They have not appealed against that order. The consequence of this is, you have filed a return, their best judgment assessment which he has made, suppose he has made the liability of 50 lakh of rupees by best judgment, and you have only filed the return for 20 lakhs. Naturally, because you have not disclosed the details, the demand will come down from 50 to 20 lakhs. But what happens to the interest? The section still has not been able to, still says the interest liability remains. Interest liability should proportionately come down, A. And if you want to contest, the interest should be on a net amount, which you are paying on a cash, and not on the gross amount. Then naturally it is incumbent upon you to file the appeal against ASMT 13. Very often what happens in many cases, we have seen that people are not, as Asit Bhai has mentioned, that DRC 07 is there. Show cause notice also is uploaded in the portal. Show cause notice is given by way of email. The order also is given by way of email. There are many people who do not verify their login to the portal, GST portal, to find out what is the new document which has been uploaded by the department. And with the result, they realize it after 2 months, after 3 months, when the time period of appeal is also over. But in case you realize it prior to the appeal period, at least file the appeal against the ASMT 13 to see that the interest liability which you want to contest is also reduced. Otherwise, what will happen is, you have filed the return, you have demanded the reduce the tax amount, but you have not appeal against the interest. And in few cases, department thereafter has seized the bank account on the ground that uh, you have not complied with the interest liability and late fee you must have paid. The interest liability still remains, and therefore you please pay the interest as mentioned in the ASMT 13. Therefore, be careful. Only filing the return within 30 days is not going to be sufficient for you to get rid of ASMT 13. The next, Ashit Bhai has dealt with provisional and the provisional assessment. Friends, I do not know what is your experience, but the experience on finalization of assessment has been very bad. Although the section and all says 6 months and 8 months, but let me tell you this, the department has not finalized the return, the assessment for years, for decades, I must not say years only, decades in the in excise and in a service tax also. Therefore, as far as possible, please do not go for a provisional assessment. Although there is a provision, although there is a section says 6 months, 8 months, and all that section does say that. But as far as possible, we normally do not advise. Because I'll give you one example. Normally, what happens is classification and the valuation are the two major items on which the provisional assessment is asked for. In case of valuation, normally post-supply discount is one major item where the assessment remains provisional, because the post-supply discount, the discount amount can be computed only after the year is completed and actual discount has been passed on. Now, after you have completed the year, you do submit the details to the department, but nobody in the department, either due to busyness or due to any reason, verifies in time. And sometimes even the employee, even in the registered person side, the employees also changes. Now, this results in the non-completion of the provisional assessment for years together. And after 5 years, when the details of post-supply discounts are asked for, the company does not have post-supply discount details. You will be surprised that recently in Sabka Vishwas, in the similar show cause, we have settled after 22 years. Now, this is a fact I'm telling you from my practical experience. And therefore, as far as possible, do not go for provisional assessment. Of course, if you have no choice left, then go for it, but see that you pursue the matter and get the assessment finalized. I'm using the word get because department, whatever you write, is generally not willing to finalize the assessment because nobody wants to take the responsibility on them. That's the another thing. And next is the suppression of fact. You see, he says that merely Ashit Bhai has mentioned, merely non-declaration of a fact amounts to suppression of fact. And that is not so. These words are there in the excise and customs and service tax also. And Supreme Court has number of times repeatedly said, given the judgment, whenever a fact is disclosed to the authority, at that point of time, you should have a mala fide intention in non-disclosing the fact before the authority. Because the audit takes place, an audit department, I mean in excise and service tax and in custom now also, the department invariably visits the business premises of the company to give the audit, to do the audit, and they have all the records available. And therefore, they cannot say something is hidden from them unless the entry itself has been camouflaged in such a manner that person cannot prima facie find out. But otherwise, if something has been disclosed to the department and thing is not, and the person himself did not have any mala fide intention, then suppression of fact and willful extended period of 5 years has been held to be not invocable. what the court have repeatedly said, that there should be a positive act of suppressing any information on the part of the registered person to invoke the extended period of 5 years. And since there is very same words have been used in section 73 and 74, it is felt that same ratio of the same judgment will also apply on this. Next is asked me whether to clarify on interest portion. If you want to see the interest, there is a judgment of Supreme Court, Pratibha processors. Pratibha processors. The court has explained why there is a provision of interest, why there is a provision of penalty, redemption fine, etc., etc. They have explained in all this detail. As regards the interest, they have stated very clearly that a person purposely delays the payment of tax amount, and thereby he benefits, financially benefits, and to compensate that financial benefit, to recoup that amount, that levy of interest is made. I mean, it is not the exact amount is recouped, because he may be earning 7% interest, 10% interest on the amount which he has retained with him, but the tax statute may provide 18% interest or 12% interest, whatever the tax rate is provided. And therefore, if you have already parted with the amount in the form of payment of CGST, GST, and tomorrow department turns around and says, you rightly should charge IGST or vice versa, then in my opinion, because you already parted with the amount, whatever tax was payable, there will be no interest. Having said this, let me tell you that you also cannot go on fighting for small amount. I mean, all these propositions which has been made will take time to be established in the law. As of now, today we are in a situation, although we are after 3.5 years, but no tribunal has been set up. And as we all know that until and unless the tribunal is set up and judicial member is involved, the orders which are received from the authorities are of, lack too many lack judicial discipline, or must say judicial interpretation. Because both of them are revenue officers and ultimate aim is to raise revenue. Some of the revenue officers are very good, but otherwise you should have a judicial member always in the panel in order that he understands the situation. Therefore, friends, Ashit Bhai has dealt with very nicely the topic, and I must say the topic which is, there's a series of lecture, but today's topic is the most relevant topic. After the lockdown is open, our annual returns will be unlocked, and you will find that in unlocking of annual returns, so many notices will come under 73, 74, and so therefore, please understand this and please take interest in learning and judicial proceeding. I think with this, thank you, the organizer, to give an opportunity of speaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashit Bhai. Thank you,